This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. We're here in Jeddah and I'm joined by Frank Smith over open workouts for Joshua-Usyk 2, or Usyk-Joshua 2 rather. Frank, firstly, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Enjoying Jeddah. Lovely to be here.
Good to hear. Now, the weather's something which I think everybody's getting used to, but aside from that, it's been a good week so far. Back to the workouts. AJ, I think going back to the Andi Ruiz fight, hasn't usually kind of hit the pads and what have you during the workout. Are you expecting anything different today?
I don't think so. I think it'll be quite normal to what you've seen, as you said there. But let's wait and see. I can't say I've asked him what he's doing yet. But we'll see what he does when he gets in the ring.
I imagine he'll want to keep as much as he can up his sleeve for fight night. But with that in mind, what are you expecting to see from him this time around? Are you expecting to see him produce that more aggressive style which people have spoken about?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what his plan is, to go in there and do. But you know, they would have been working on a game plan throughout. You know, he's been focused, like I said before, for 11 months now on getting the win against Oleksandr Usyk and what needs to change. He's got some good new members of the team as well, and you know, I think you're going to see a whole different performance from Anthony Joshua. You know, and everyone's got their idea, and he should do this, he should do here, he should do this, but it's very easy for everyone to have an opinion when they're not in the ring against Oleksandr Usyk, who's obviously very good as well. So, you know. But look, I have every faith in Anthony Joshua. I think he's going to go in there and I think he's going to stop Oleksandr Usyk.
I mean, how do you play the kind of balancing act with this fight, Frank? When you are in Anthony Joshua's shoes, you're sharing the ring with somebody who is notoriously looked at as one of the best pure boxers within the sport. You're not going to outbox him, you have to be aggressive but within the right means. How do you actually go about trying to set up the right shots at the right times against somebody who is such a fantastic technician of a ring?
Yeah, look, you know, everyone's spoken about it before, but you're looking at the first fight back in September. You know, it's not like everyone talks about, you know, he lost. He did lose the fight, but I think, what did he lose by, 4 points on 2 of the cards? Something like that. You know, it wasn't an embarrassment when you talk about he went in there and boxed Oleksandr Usyk at something Oleksandr Usyk's very good at. You know, he's had 400 odd, 370 odd amateur fights. You know, unified cruiserweight champion of the world now. Oh, sorry, undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. Now unified heavyweight champion of the world. Like, he's gone in there and tried to beat him at what he's best at. You know, now he's gone away and he's worked on a lot more with his team. But you know, I think it's a lot of people saying, you know, he can't do this, he can't do that. It wasn't an embarrassment. You know, you watch back some of the clips from the September fight. I think people get lost in it. You know, AJ doesn't get a lot of credit, I don't think. And I think, you know, in that performance in there, yeah, he didn't win the fight, and he went in there with a certain game plan. It didn't work, and now he's focused on what he does now to improve it. But like I say, I think he goes in there and stops him.
AJ's always carried a great deal of pressure on his shoulders for British boxing in particular, Frank. Saturday night, does it get any bigger for him? Is this very much so, not just the biggest fight of his career, but one which he has to win so that he can prolong his career? Because some people have suggested that retirement might only be around the corner if he wasn't to pick up his belts once again on Saturday night.
I think the talk about retirement's insane. You know, he's 32 years old, in great physical condition, you know, and ultimately, if he lost, he's been beaten by pound for pound top 1, 2, 3 fighters in the world in Oleksandr Usyk. And the only other defeat he's had, he avenged against Andi Ruiz. I think there's still huge fights out there for him. It's up to him what he wants to do. You know, he could go back. People talk about if he loses, it makes a big difference. Look, no one wants to lose, but ultimately, like, you look at fights out there, and like I say, it depends on what he'd want to do. But Deontay Wilder's a massive fight. You know, there's huge fights out there for him, regardless of wins or losses. But take that away, he's focused 100% on getting the win on Saturday. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He's had a lot of pressure on his shoulders from day one. I think boxing, British boxing especially, owes him a lot, because I think he's done a lot for the sport. You know, he's taken the sport to a whole new level. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people posting about it. Get behind him. Like, he's a British guy going to become a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. Don't be negative. Say, good luck, get out there and do the business. You know, everyone's, you know, people on social media, like I say, about the credit, not getting enough credit. People should get behind him, because he's huge for the sport and huge for British boxing especially.
How has he seen, away from the fight events, Frank, when you've been in and around him and in the build-up to this fight, when you've had meetings with him, how has he seen?
It's great. He's great. AJ's always great, though. He's been a great person to deal with since day one. We've got a good relationship, you know, and the team around him is. What's nice is it hasn't really changed. You know, there may be people talk about the team, but he's always had good people around him, and that's the most important thing. And people that he trusts and believes in, and will be honest with him as well. And that's what's helped get him to this point as well, having the right people there as part of the team. But look, he's confident. He's always confident, and he's a great person to be around as well. And he's in very good spirits, and looking forward to Saturday night.
One of the big talking points in the build-up to this fight has been kind of a weight front. Now, we saw them both yesterday, and Oleksandr Usyk in some photos beforehand looked like he might have bulked up a little bit more. A lot of people have suggested that doesn't seem to be the case from what they saw yesterday. Do you expect him to come in any heavier, and if so, does that indicate a change in his game plan?
Yeah, I think he looks a bit heavier, but who knows until they get on the scale. It's very hard to judge just looking at someone, apart from me when I put on weight. But I think in terms of game plan, the truth is AJ's been focused on what he needs to do to beat Oleksandr Usyk for, like I say, 11 months. It's not just the last couple of months. He's been focused on what he needs to change and what he needs to implement to get the win on Saturday. Ultimately, Usyk would have done his own camping way and thinking about ways to beat Anthony Joshua. So, does it change the game plan? I'm not really sure. 4 or 5 days out, it changes the game plan. I think they both know what they're going in there to do, and they've got a job to do, and they've been working on plans, I'm sure, to how they're going to beat the other guy.
You mentioned you have a great relationship with AJ. What's the relationship been like with Sky this week, who obviously broadcasting the fight, who are your previous broadcast partners?
Look, I've worked with them for 10 years. We're not kids in playgrounds. We made a commercial decision to go somewhere else. It doesn't mean we don't get on, or you can't talk or say hello, how are you? We're grown-ups. Changes things commercially. We've got a job to do for our broadcast partner. They've got their own new promoter. So, of course that element changes, but actually we're professionals. We're going to deliver a service and do our utmost. Ultimately, everything we do reflects our brand. So we're bothered about Matchroom, number one, and the fighters, because we want to deliver the best that we can. So nothing changes there. I've spoken to the guys, had a good chat with them a few times, and all is good.
Frank, the Ring Magazine title on the line on Saturday night, do you believe Tyson Fury has retired there?
Like I said, who knows? One day he retired, one day he's fighting this person, next day he's fighting this person, next day he's going into WWE, next day he's doing this. Who knows? Just let him get on with it. I think everyone gives it too much sort of media around it all, and that's why he carries on to do it. Because everyone starts writing about it and talking about it, etc. Let him get on with his life. Have a good time. These two get to fight it out, number 1 and 2 for the Ring Magazine belt, and we'll have to see what happens with the WBC as well. I think he's got a period of time to decide what he's doing with that. But yeah, look, it's a massive fight. I think this is the biggest fight we've seen this year, and the belt deserves to be on the line for it.
Zhang and Filip Hrgovic talks about that fight, Frank. It's a great fight, one that I don't think many could expect to see go very far.
No, look, no one wanted to fight Filip Hrgovic. Fair play to Zhang, he stepped up. That we went through the list of the IBF rankings, and everyone was like, no. Zhang stepped up. And look, this is the opportunity to become mandatory challenger for the winner on Saturday night. Filip Hrgovic, we all know, he's a very talented fighter. People have been talking about him for a long time. I think it's going to be a lively fight early on. I don't see it going many rounds, but I think both of them early on, it's going to be really interesting. You've got to say Filip Hrgovic is the favourite in that fight, but Zhang's looking in great shape as well. He had a good win last time out in Vegas on the Canelo undercard. But, this is it's a big fight because, like I say, the winner gets to go and challenge for that world title. I'm sure there's lots of other mandatories as well coming around the corner, but big opportunity there.
Smith-Bauderlique in the WBC final eliminator. Obviously, the successor would go on to face Artur Beterbiev, which is by no means an easy task. Just your thoughts on Smith-Bauderlique?
Smith-Bauderlique, massive fight. Callum Smith, as you say, the winner gets a chance to fight Beterbiev. I think Beterbiev's got a WBO mandatory against Anthony Yard first. I'm not sure what's going on with that when they're announcing that. It's supposed to be happening in October. But look, Callum Smith wants that challenge against Beterbiev. Bauderlique. I don't know too much about Bauderlique. I've seen some clips of him. You know, he obviously won the European title not too long ago. He's a fighter we looked at a couple of times for some other fights, but you know, I think Callum Smith, you're going to see another big performance from him. You saw a great stoppage when he boxed on the undercard of the Usyk show. I think after this, the key is to keep Callum active. You know, he had a bit of time out, but that's the focus now.
We saw the EBU order a fight between Callum and Joshua-Buatsi. Now, I know you wouldn't have put that fight on for that card because we're both looking for world honours, but is that something internally which has been discussed of how big of a domestic fight that could be at some point?
Sorry, that's Callum Smith against Joshua-Buatsi. I think it's a really interesting fight. I think it's a great fight. You know, Callum Smith's been around for a long time and done some amazing things in the sport. Joshua-Buatsi, obviously, you know, a lot of people believe he's one of the stars of British boxing. Had a great win against Craig Richards in a brilliant fight not too long ago. I'd love to see that fight. I think it's a great fight, but you know, Buatsi wants to have a go at the world title, but obviously lots happening in that division, especially with, like I say, Yard against Beterbiev. Bivol going to fight Ramirez, looks like, for the WBA title in a mandatory defence. So let's see how things play out. You know, ultimately they both want to go for the world title, but it's a big fight if those world titles aren't there between the two of them. Massive fight.
What is going to be the plan with Josh now? Because I know he was pushing for a Bivol fight. Is he going to be looking for that Pascal eliminator?
Yeah, possibly. That's won the IBF final, IBF eliminator there for Beterbiev's belt, or maybe Yard's belt. Let's see what happens. But yeah, that's something we're working on. Negotiation period at the minute, so we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of days.
Frank, just away from this card, get your thoughts on one other fight. We was there last week, the press conference. Eubank Jr-Benn, you're very much of a man in the middle. How are you finding trying to balance, staying neutral?
It's all right. That's why I came out here so early, so I could be away from the missus and not get in any trouble. But it's a massive fight. You know, we've seen it with the ticket sales, we've seen it with the social media interaction around it. Huge fight on October 8th. I think we're going to do some massive numbers on that. And you know, both guys have got their advantages, disadvantages going in the fight. One coming up, one coming down, one going up. But look, ultimately for me, I just want a great fight, and I honestly think you're going to see a 12-round tear-up.
Frank, one thing which people have asked about is tickets being resold. Is there anything which Matchroom or the team can do to try to keep that down to a minimum or to stop that from happening?
It's very difficult, you know. Reselling tickets is only illegal in football. And the only reason for that is the keeping groups of football fans segregated. There's no other laws in any other sports, music, entertainment, and it happens day in, day out. You know, one thing I'm interested in looking in is, ultimately, it's difficult. It's like us buying a product and reselling it for more money. In every other walk of life, that happens day in, day out. One thing I'd be interested in looking at is how do we make it safer for the fans in terms of that resale platform. So the biggest issue we face is people turning up with fake tickets, or they've been sold duplicate tickets. My interest is how can we kind of make that process safer so people aren't getting ripped off for tickets, in truth. And that's something I'm going to focus some time on over the next 6 months to see how we can implement a plan of change there.
Right, Frank, we'll leave that there now because obviously the workout's picking up, but I appreciate your time as always. I'll catch you later this week. Thank you.
Mate, thanks.